Have you ever been so desperate that you were willing to do anything for a plate of food? Has your life ever felt like an endless storm, only for a single moment of warmth to change everything? It was a cold winter evening, and the restaurant was nearly empty. Harry, a young night shift employee, was cleaning the tables while the few remaining customers silently finished their meals. Outside, snow was falling, and the wind rattled the windows, reminding everyone how harsh the world could feel at this time of year. Suddenly, the door swung open, letting in a blast of freezing air, and a young woman hesitantly stepped inside. Her name was Amelia. She was barefoot, dressed in worn-out clothes, and her eyes held a mix of shame and desperation. Harry stared at her in surprise. It wasn't common for someone to come in like this, especially on such a bitterly cold night. Amelia hesitated near the entrance, as if unsure whether she should continue. "Can I help you?" Harry asked cautiously, stepping closer. Amelia looked at him and her voice trembled. I, I don't have any money, but I can sing for a plate of food. Please." The honesty in her plea touched Harry. He knew that the owner, Nicholas Long, wouldn't allow such a thing. But looking at Amelia, he felt he couldn't just turn her away. "Singing?" he repeated with an encouraging smile. "Well, if you sing something and the customers like it, you can eat whatever you want." Amelia's eyes filled with gratitude. She nodded quickly, hugging her tattered coat tighter to keep warm. Harry pointed to the piano in the corner of the restaurant, an instrument that was rarely played. The few customers lifted their heads from their plates, intrigued. Amelia approached the piano, sat down on the bench, and took a deep breath. The first note came hesitantly, but soon her voice filled the room. It was a melancholic melody, the lyrics speaking of loss and hope. Her voice was like a whisper from the heart, charged with emotion. It felt as if the entire restaurant had frozen in time to listen to her. Harry was stunned, unable to believe the talent that had just unfolded before him. When she finished, the silence was broken by applause. Two customers even stood up to praise her. Excited, Harry rushed to the kitchen and returned with a bowl of hot soup and fresh bread. "You deserve this," he said with a genuine smile, placing the food in front of her. Amelia took the spoon with trembling hands, but before eating, looked up at Harry. "Thank you. No one has ever done anything like this for me." Harry smiled, but deep down, he knew he was taking a risk. The restaurant's owner could appear at any moment, and he was not a tolerant man. Still, in that moment, Harry felt he had done the right thing. Little did he know that this act of kindness would be the beginning of something far greater and more unexpected. Amelia ate slowly, as if each spoonful of soup was a rare luxury she didn't want to rush. Still intrigued, Harry sat in the chair next to her, watching as she savored the food. "You sing beautifully," he finally said, breaking the silence. Amelia looked at him with a shy smile. "Thank you. Singing is the only thing that still makes me feel alive." "You taught yourself?" Harry asked, genuinely curious. "My mother taught me. She was a music teacher," Amelia replied, her voice dropping lower. "After she passed, I had no one left. Music is all I have now." Harry fell silent for a moment, realizing that Amelia carried more than just hunger or cold. She carried a whole life of loss. Before he could respond, the restaurant door swung open again, and this time, the chill Harry felt had nothing to do with the weather. Nicholas Long, the owner of the restaurant, had arrived. A middle-aged man with piercing eyes and a rigid posture, Nicholas was known for his strict discipline. His gaze swept across the room before stopping on Amelia, who was still sitting with a bowl of soup in front of her. "Harry," Nicholas said sharply as he approached, "who is she, and why is she eating without paying?" Harry quickly stood up, feeling the weight of Nicholas's stare. "She sang, sir. I let her sing in exchange for food." Nicholas raised an eyebrow, clearly displeased. "This isn't a charity. We have rules here." Before Harry could respond, Amelia hurriedly stood up, trying to wipe away the tears that were threatening to fall. "I'm very sorry, sir. I didn't mean to cause any trouble. I can sing for you if you'd like. If you don't like it, I'll leave." Nicholas studied her from head to toe, as if weighing his decision. The tension in the restaurant was palpable. Even the remaining customers sat in silence, waiting to see what would happen. "You sing?" Nicholas repeated, skepticism evident in his voice. "Fine. Let's see if your voice is worth anything. Go to the piano." Amelia hesitated for a moment, but Harry gave her an encouraging nod. She walked to the piano again, sat down and took a deep breath before beginning. This time, her voice was even stronger, filled with determination. The melody of a folk song carried deep emotions, sorrow and hope intertwined. Her voice echoed through the restaurant, reaching into the souls of everyone who listened. Nicholas, who had been watching with a cold, skeptical expression, slowly changed. His posture relaxed and his gaze grew distant, as if the music had transported him somewhere else. When Amelia finished, silence filled the restaurant. Nicholas stood still for a few seconds before turning to Harry. "Get her another bowl of soup," he said, his voice lower, almost thoughtful. Harry was surprised but quickly obeyed, bringing Amelia more food. She watched Nicholas, trying to understand what he was thinking, but too afraid to ask. Nicholas stood by the door, observing with an expression that seemed to hide something deeper. Amelia's music had touched something in him, but what, no one knew. To Harry, one thing was clear. This girl's voice had transformed the atmosphere of the restaurant, but he didn't yet realize that this transformation was only beginning. As Amelia finished eating, Nicholas remained by the door, watching her with an unreadable expression. Harry noticed something strange. His boss, always stern and rigid, now seemed lost in thought, as if the music had awakened something within him. "What's your name?" Nicholas finally asked, his voice still firm but no longer as cold. "Amelia," she replied, lowering her gaze. "You have talent," he said bluntly, "but talent doesn't pay the bills." Harry quickly spoke up, trying to smooth things over. "She didn't ask for much, sir. She just wanted something to eat, and I think her music was worth far more than that." Nicholas looked at Harry seriously but said nothing. Instead, he turned back to Amelia. "How long have you been singing?" "Since I was a child," she answered shyly. "My mother was a music teacher. She taught me." At that moment, something seemed to hit Nicholas. He turned away and walked to the counter, as if needing a moment alone. Harry noticed and, feeling curious, leaned toward Amelia. "What do you think he's going to do?" she asked, worried. "I don't know," Harry admitted, "but he's different now. Maybe your music touched something in him." A few minutes later, Nicholas returned. He pulled out a chair and sat down next to Amelia, something he never did, not even with his staff. "You reminded me of something," he said, his voice lower. Amelia looked up at him in surprise. Nicholas continued, "My daughter used to sing that song. It was her favorite." The revelation shocked everyone, especially Harry. Nicholas rarely spoke about his personal life. Everyone knew he was a reserved man, devoted only to his work. "Where is your daughter now?" Amelia asked gently. Nicholas hesitated, as if the question had hit him like a blow. He took a deep breath before answering. "She passed away many years ago." The silence in the restaurant became almost unbearable. Amelia looked at Nicholas, realizing that beneath his hardened exterior, there was something else. Pain. A pain he had been hiding, one that seemed to have shaped him. "I'm so sorry," she said sincerely. Nicholas nodded but said nothing. He remained silent for a moment, then abruptly stood up. "For tonight, that's all I can promise." Amelia was stunned. She hadn't expected compassion from someone like Nicholas, but something in his behavior hinted at change. After Nicholas retreated to his office, Harry turned to Amelia. "I've never seen him like this. I think your music opened something in him." Amelia didn't respond immediately. She knew something had shifted, but she also understood that this story wasn't over. Nicholas carried a heavy burden, and she felt like she was meant to help him carry it, even if she didn't know how. What started as a simple request for food now felt like the beginning of an unexpected connection, built on shared pain and the power of music. That evening in the restaurant was far from over. Even after Nicholas left for his office, the atmosphere remained charged with the weight of his words. Harry, visibly shaken, tried to process what he had heard. He never knew Nicholas had a daughter, let alone that he had lost her. Amelia sat quietly, staring at her empty plate. "I had no idea he went through something like that," she said softly. Harry shook his head. "No one knew. He never talks about it. Nicholas is a complicated man, but I think there's more to him than we realize." Amelia sighed, lowering her gaze to the piano. I just wanted to sing for a meal. I didn't think it would bring back so many memories. Harry glanced at her with a small smile. Your music touched him, Amelia. That's a good thing. Maybe he needed it more than he realizes. At that moment, Nicholas reappeared from his office and walked back into the main hall. He stopped by the piano, staring at the instrument as if lost in memories. Amelia, he called, his voice firm but not harsh. She quickly stood up, still uncertain of what to expect. Yes, sir? Sing again, he said, not taking his eyes off the piano. Harry looked at Amelia in surprise, but she nodded and sat down once more. This time she chose a softer melody. The music filled the restaurant with a sense of calm that contrasted with the weight of their emotions. Nicholas listened in silence, arms crossed, his expression shifting between hardness and something more vulnerable. When Amelia finished, he stepped forward and sat at a nearby table, finally breaking the silence. My daughter played the piano too, he began, staring at the keys. She had that same spark in her eyes when she played. When she sang, the whole world seemed to disappear. Amelia remained quiet, waiting for him to continue. Harry also listened, not daring to interrupt. She died in a car accident. She was so young, so full of life. After that, silence filled the house. I couldn't listen to music without remembering her. So I stopped listening. I stopped feeling. A moment of absolute silence followed. Nicholas took a deep breath before continuing. Tonight, your music reminded me of her, and for the first time, it wasn't painful. Amelia felt a lump in her throat. I never thought my song could mean so much. I just wanted to thank you for letting me stay. Nicholas nodded, but his face still carried the weight of his sorrow. You brought back something I thought I had lost forever. I don't know how to deal with it, but I think I want to try. Harry, overwhelmed with emotion, finally spoke. Maybe it's time to bring music back into your life, sir. Nicholas looked at him, then at Amelia. Maybe. He remained silent for a few more seconds before standing up. Amelia, stay here tonight. Tomorrow we'll discuss what comes next. Harry, make sure she has everything she needs. Amelia thanked him sincerely. The gesture seemed small, but to her it meant everything. As Nicholas walked away again, she turned to Harry and whispered, I think he's trying to open up. Harry smiled. Thanks to you. But Amelia knew Nicholas's journey had only just begun. Music had opened the door, but facing the shadows of the past would be far more difficult. The next morning, the restaurant was quiet. Soft morning sunlight streamed into the small back room where Amelia slept. For the first time in months, she felt the warmth of a safe place. The room was simple, but to her, it felt like a temporary home, one that gave her a sense of security. Outside, she heard voices. Nicholas and Harry were talking in the main hall, but the serious tone of Nicholas's voice made her hesitate. Maybe he had changed his mind about letting her stay. Taking a deep breath, she slowly approached and stopped near the entrance. Come in, Amelia, Nicholas said unexpectedly, without even looking back. His voice was firm but not unkind. She took a few cautious steps and stopped next to Harry, who tried to reassure her with a small smile. Nicholas looked at her with calculating eyes, as if assessing every detail of her presence. I've been thinking a lot about what happened last night, he began, crossing his arms, and I've made a decision. I want you to stay here. Amelia's eyes widened in surprise. You want me to stay? I don't even know how to thank you. Don't thank me yet, Nicholas replied seriously. This is a chance, not a guarantee. I want to see if you're as dedicated as you seem. This is a job, Amelia, not charity. She quickly nodded, her eyes shining. I'll work hard, I promise. Harry, feeling relieved, smiled at Amelia. I'll help you with whatever you need. Nicholas shot him a strict look. And you, focus on your job. Just because we have a new helper doesn't mean you get to slack off. Yes, sir, Harry replied playfully, but clearly pleased with Nicholas's decision. In the following days, Amelia threw herself into work. She washed dishes, cleared tables, and did everything asked of her with a dedication that even Nicholas found impressive. At night, the restaurant filled with her music. At first, she didn't think anyone would notice, but soon she realized that customers stopped to listen. Her voice began to attract new people. The restaurant, once just another dining spot, became known as a place where a young singer captivated the audience. Harry liked to joke, soon we'll have to start charging for tickets to her performances. Despite Amelia's positive impact on the restaurant, Nicholas remained distant. Whenever she sang, he would leave the hall, as if he couldn't bear to listen. Harry noticed and, one evening, decided to talk to him. "Sir, why do you never stay to hear her music?" Nicholas hesitated for a moment. "Because it's still too hard. Her music reminds me of what I'd rather forget." Harry hesitated but answered cautiously. "Perhaps it's time to remember, sir. Maybe your daughter wanted you to hear this." Nicholas said nothing, but those words seemed to weigh heavily on him. That same evening, as Amelia was finishing up washing the dishes, Nicholas approached her. "My daughter had the same sparkle in her eyes when she sang," he said in a low voice. "When you sing, it's as if she's here again." Amelia was surprised by this confession. "I don't want to bring you pain," she sighed. Nicholas took a deep breath. "It's not just pain. Maybe it's a way to remember what I lost and what can still be found." Amelia nodded, understanding that little by little, Nicholas was allowing himself to face the past. The restaurant seemed to gain new energy with Amelia's presence. Customers came not only for the food, but also for the music she brought. Amelia's voice, filled with emotion, became an unexpected attraction, filling the space not just with melody, but with hope. During the day, she worked tirelessly, clearing tables and helping in the kitchen, while Harry taught her all the ins and outs of the restaurant business. In the evenings, she sang for the customers, who often applauded and asked for more. Despite the hard routine, Amelia seemed more alive than ever. Nicholas, however, kept his distance. He watched from afar, never allowing himself to stay in the dining area when she performed. By the time the applause started, he had already retreated to his office. Yet it was impossible not to notice the impact she had on the restaurant. One evening, after an especially busy day, Harry finally decided to confront Nicholas. As they were closing up, Harry spoke cautiously. "Do you realize how much Amelia has transformed this place?" Nicholas kept counting the money in the register, not looking up. "Customers like novelty. It's good for business." "That's not all, sir," Harry insisted. "Her music helps people, including you." Nicholas stopped what he was doing and looked straight at Harry. "Why do you think that?" "Because you've changed since she arrived. You used to be more closed off. But now, something's different. And I think it's because she brought music back into this place." Nicholas didn't respond, but the tension in his face made it clear that Harry's words had struck a chord. That evening, as Amelia was clearing the tables, Nicholas approached her. It was an unexpected gesture, and she tensed, waiting for him to speak. "Amelia, you sing as if you're trying to heal something," he said in a low voice. Amelia smiled shyly. "I think I am. Music has always saved me, even in the hardest times." Nicholas nodded slowly, as if absorbing every word. "My daughter, she used to say something similar. She believed that music had power, and I think, in some way, she was right." Amelia didn't know how to respond, but understanding shone in her eyes. Nicholas continued, "When you sing, it's like I can hear her again. It's painful, but it's also good." "I just want my music to help," Amelia said sincerely. Nicholas watched her for a moment before turning away. "You're already helping, more than you realize." The next day, something different happened. For the first time, Nicholas stayed in the dining area while Amelia sang. He chose a table in the corner, away from the curious eyes of customers, but he stayed for the entire performance. When Harry noticed, he smirked slightly but said nothing. When Amelia finished, Nicholas sat in silence for a moment before getting up and leaving without a word. But for Harry and Amelia, that gesture meant more than anything he could have said. Amelia's music was slowly breaking down the walls Nicholas had built around himself. And for the first time in a long while, the restaurant was becoming more than just a business. It was becoming a place of healing. Amelia was no longer just an assistant or a singer at the restaurant. Her music not only attracted new customers, but also created connections between the people who came here. A place that had once been just an ordinary restaurant was now a sanctuary, where stories, emotions, and hopes were shared. Nicholas continued to change, though slowly and quietly. He started staying in the dining area more often during Amelia's performances, always choosing the most secluded spot, but listening intently. Whenever she sang his daughter's favorite song, Nicholas would lower his head as if trying to hide the mix of pain and comfort her voice brought him. One evening, after a performance that earned a round of applause from everyone in the restaurant, Amelia went to the kitchen to clear the dishes. Nicholas silently followed her. Sensing his presence, she turned to him with curiosity, waiting for him to speak. "Amelia," Nicholas began, his voice softer than ever before, "I've been thinking a lot about what you said that night, about how your music is meant to heal." She tilted her head slightly, waiting for him to continue. "For years, I carried the pain of losing my daughter as if it was something I could never let go of. I thought music was a cruel reminder of what I lost. But you showed me that it can also be a way to remember with love." Amelia felt her eyes fill with tears. "If my music brought you even a little bit of peace, then it has fulfilled its purpose," she said. Nicholas nodded, but he couldn't say anything more. Instead, he placed a hand on her shoulder, a gesture that spoke more than words ever could. That same night, after the restaurant had closed, Harry, Amelia, and Nicholas sat together at a table for the first time. In a rare moment of openness, Nicholas shared stories about his daughter and how she, too, had used music to change people's lives. "You remind me of her," he told Amelia, "not just because of the music, but because of the strength you carry inside you. I think she would have liked you." Amelia smiled, deeply touched. She promised that she would keep singing, not just for herself, but for everyone who found solace in her music. From that moment on, the restaurant was no longer just a workplace. It became a family. Nicholas, Harry, and Amelia each learned, in their own way, to face their pain, to find strength in the present, and to believe in new beginnings. Just as Amelia's music touched Nicholas's heart, this story invites us to reflect on the power of human connection. If you felt something special while experiencing this journey, share your thoughts with us. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to explore other heartfelt stories we've lovingly prepared for you. See you in the next chapter of Stories That Touch the Soul.